Very good afternoon to all. I'd like to welcome you all in another session of this IP class, and today we are going to discuss chapter number 1, that is working with Numpy. So in this chapter we are going to discuss few points, that is introduction to Numpy, then types of Numpy ND array, then creation of 1D array, what is the difference between Numpy and list, and creation of 1D array from string, and then arrange function and copy function. So let's start with the tutorial and this interesting class. Now let's talk about introduction to Numpy. As we are already aware, and in 11th standard we have studied that Numpy stands for numerical Python. Numerical Python, that means various scientific computing and scientific calculation part we can do with the Numpy array, and it consists of a multi-dimensional array object, and we can work on it. And this is quite interesting, like when it comes to data science part or data analysis part, we can implement various analysis function, analytics function on the Numpy array. Now what is Numpy array? It's a grid of values with the same data type, and these values are indexed by a tuple of non-negative integers. That means if I talk about the index of the value will be placed as similar to the list, as the value contained in a list, and there will be a position. Likewise, as we know how the values get stored into a list, starting from index 0 to the highest size -1. Now talking about this dimension part, that the core advantage of Numpy array in comparison of list is we can create multi-dimensional array. That means we can apply dimension to it and how to insert value into it. So we'll be discussing about that also. Now talking about the rank of array, that what is the rank of array. Now shape of an array, what is the shape of an array, whether it's a 1D array, 2D array, or a cuboid. So it's like that. So it is totally dependent upon the dimension of an array. Now talking about types of Numpy and dimension array. So as we have already studied that arrays are classified in two dimensions. One is one-dimensional array, which we usually called as vector, and this type of array always have the axis 0. Now talking about multi-dimensional array, these arrays are also similar array which are having homogeneous data values and which are kept with respect to shape, such as 2D array. If it is a 2D array, it's a matrix. If it is a 3D array, it's a cube or cuboid. So such array object can have more than one axis with respect to their dimension. As more dimension will increase, the number of axes will similarly increase. Now let's discuss about, let's get an idea how the values are kept inside an array. So this is the example of a 1D array in which what is happening, various values are kept and it is having axis 0. Now talking about shape part, the shape is considered as 4 because this array is having total 4 data values, and another part is left blank because this array is having only one dimension and all 4 values are kept into it, which are of homogeneous data type. It will never work like one value in the array is of your list type and is of integer type, and another value in the array is of float type. So it will never work. All the values in the array should be of similar data type. Now talking about this two-dimensional array. Two-dimensional array is having 2 dimensions with respect to the axis. The column wise, when values are kept column wise, this is considered as axis 0, and when values are kept rows wise, this axis is considered as your axis 1. So it's a float type array in which values are kept. Now let me tell you why by default the data type of the array is your float. So all the values are supposed to be kept into a float data type only, uh, but later on it can be converted to integer. Now talking about three-dimensional array, as you can see, it's a cuboidal shape in which values are kept. So this is made up of various matrices which are kept aligned and organized in a manner. So this array is having axis 0, your axis 1, your axis 2. So it's a three-dimensional array, and the shape of this array is considered 4, 3, 2. That means if you talk about column wise, there in column wise there are 4 elements. If you talk about your row wise there are 3 element. And if you talk about another dimension of the array, the as per another dimension of the array, that the values are 2, like two types values are kept in it. That means total categorization done in that basis. For example, for more detail I would like to tell you that if we discuss about this particular axis 0, so with respect to axis 0 you can see total values are kept 4. Now with respect to axis 1 total values are kept 3, that's why 3 is here. And with respect to axis 2 total values are kept over here 2. So 9 and 8 are two values which are there in axis 2, and with the help of these values, I would like to say with the help of these three axes, this three-dimensional array is created. I hope this must be clear to you all. Okay, now let's move ahead. Now talking about the creation of 1D array, how to create a single dimensional array. So the creation of 1D array can be created by using this array method. And this array method you can in this array method you can just pass on the values, and this is I would like to tell you with the help of tutorial. So let's start with the tutorial. So I am before starting working on Numpy array, first of all I need to do the configuration of my ideally, and I would like to tell you how to configure your ideally. So for this, first of all you need to go to my computer, and in my computer you have to go to local disk C. So let's go to local disk C in this PC. So let's go to local disk C, or you can do one more thing, just close it and go to desktop. So alt tab, I am going to desktop part. So let's minimize the screen, and I'm just minimizing it. I'm just exiting from this particular window. So come to this particular application, that is your ideally Python 3.8 32-bit. Just do right click on it. After doing right click and ask for the folder location, open file location, click on this option, open file location, and at open file location you'll find various folders. Then go to script. So you will find like various pip installer are here. Then what you have to do, you have to open your command prompt. So press Windows plus R and Windows plus R, and then press write CMD and then press enter. After pressing enter, copy the location of this particular folder, Control C, and type here CD Control V. So what will happen, you will directly come into this particular folder. The command is CD and just paste that particular location. Right after this, what you have to do, pip install numpy and press enter. It will start doing installation, but make sure your internet should be active for doing this particular installation. Once your installation is done, it will already tell you that requirement already satisfied. That means Numpy is already installed in my in my this ideally, so I can directly start working on it, right? And if it not be installed in your system, so installation will take place from very beginning. The installation will be continued. But before installing this particular part, make sure that your Python should be installed in your system. Okay, so I'm going to close this window, just close it, and I'm just going back again to my presentation and this particular part. So let's start doing the programming, and you will understand that how to create an array, how to create a 1D array. So let's go ahead with that. I'm just directly coming to that particular slide on which we were working. Alright, so creation of 1D array. So go to your this particular part, your Python shell, and start doing programming on it. So the very first statement, very first command you will run, that is import numpy as. You can pass on any alias of this library. It is not necessary that you have to pass np all the time, doesn't matter. You can pass a, so it's a, but make sure if you have declared it as a, if you made the alias of this numpy library as a, then you cannot declare any variable as a. That's why we always take np, because we hardly declare any variable by the name np. So once the library will be successfully run, it will again give you again put you to the next statement. Then we are declaring, as we are discussing about the creation part, so let's create an array. Let me create an array by the name a, and passing np.array, and in np.array I'm just passing the values, and the values I'm passing 10, 20, 30, and I can simply write d type. It's totally up to me. If I don't want to write d type, then by default the data type of the array is in float. So in print I'm just passing a, so it is showing you that the array is created with the value 10, 20 and 30. Okay, so if I'm saying that a equals to, if I am adding more into this particular statement, which is not possible, so let's go to a equals to np dot array, and in parenthesis just pass on the values 10, 20, 30, 40, and make sure d type equals to your, say suppose you have passed float, then what will happen? Once you will print the array, print, and then thereafter if you will mention a, so you will find that this array is created, which is having all the values as of floating type, like 10 point, 20 point, 30 point, 40 point, right? And accordingly the precision can be applied to it. Okay, now there's another thing, this way you can create an array, and in this array if you want to put multiple values can be put. Now there is another method of creating an array by using arrange function, but we'll discuss in another last slide or second last slide, but I'm telling you early as well. Like if you want to create an array by the name a, so you can simply write a and then your alias of an array np a range, and you can just pass on that you want to create an array of 100 values. So it will start creating the array from 0 and will go to 100 minus 1, that is 99. That means an array of 100 element with equal distance will be created. For example, if I am going to print this array by executing this statement, so you can see that an array is created starting from 0 to 99. So likewise, you have created an array, you made an array with how many values starting from 0 to 99. Okay, so likewise, if you want to change the size or shape of this particular, if you want to reshape this particular array, so what you can do, you can simply write just reshape it, simply just write reshape. And as of now I want to just reshape it in 2 by 4. So I'll simply write that a equals to, I can write a equals to a dot reshape. As my array is already created, so I am doing reshaping and I am passing the reshaping order, that is 2 by 4. So it cannot reshape the array of size 100 in 2 by 4 because this particular array will not fit into that size. So right, I'm taking another example. For example, like I'm creating another array by the name a, or I'm just passing np dot a range, and then thereafter I'm just passing 15 to it. Okay, and once this array is created, what I can do, a dot reshape, I can reshape the same array. So I'm most probably, let's do reshaping, and that is 3 comma 5. My all values will come into this particular shape. So as okay, right, so let's do reshaping. I have to take this value somewhere else, then it will only get the result. So as I've created a equals to np dot a range, and pass value how much, 15, and then thereafter reshape this array into 2 dimension with 3 rows and 5 columns. So while I'll be printing a, I'm so sorry for this particular dog bark, I'm so sorry. Alright, now as you can see, our array is reshaped. Our array was having 0 to 15 value, but with respect to this particular reshape, what happens, my array is now divide into 3 rows, and with respect to it 5 columns are created. So very first row is having value 0 1 2 3 4 5. So 5 value will be there in each row. So first row is having 5 value, second row is having again 5 value, and third row is having 5 value. So I hope this must be clear to you all, that how to create an array and reshape it. So again, let's do it again, and we are going to create an array of same as we have created 100 values array. So a equals to I want to create an array, and let's write the method np dot a range, and I'm just I'm not taking it into a, I'm taking it into another variable named as b. I'm taking the array 100, right? I'm creating the array of 100 continuous distributed values and going to reshape it into say 2 by 50. So, and later on, while I'll be printing this particular b, what will be the result? Now as you can see, the array is divided into 2-dimensional array, in which first row is having 50 values and then again second row is having rest of the 50 values. So according to you, you can divide further dimensions. So I can do over here like C equals to B dot reshape. So let's reshape it again in 4 by 25, 4 by 25, and then thereafter print. And what to print? I'm printing C. So you can see that my first arrays have this two-dimensional array is created, which is having 4 rows and how many columns? 25 columns. So accordingly the values are printing over here. So I hope as many as distribution you want to do, you can do. It's totally up to you. So for example, I want to just divide this particular array, like let me take another variable like C equals to, and I want to reshape like B dot reshape, and I can do reshaping in like 10 by and 10 rows and 10 column. So distribution can be done like print and then C, but make sure the multiplication of this value and this value, rows and column, should be equal to your total number of values. If your total number of values will be different from this, then distribution cannot be done. So another two-dimensional array is created, as you can see here, which is having how many values starting from 0 to 9. That means 10 rows are there and 10 columns are here. So it's altogether a square matrix which is created out of it. Okay, so you must be clear about reshaping and how to create an array. Now if you want to check the shape of this array, like C dot shape, I want to know what is the shape of my array. So it will tell me 10 by 10 because I have given the shape 10 by 10. So total 10 rows and 10 columns are there in my array. So this particular shape method will give you what are the shapes my array is having. Now talking about, if you want to check n dimension of my array, how many dimensions are there in my array? There are total 2 dimensions, right? So this n dimension method will return you that how many dimensions are there in my array. So it's a 2-dimensional array. So n dimension will return you that how many dimensions are there in my array. Now talking about, if you want to check that what data type values are there in my array, so you can simply write C dot D type and dot name. What data type values are there in my array? So while you will be writing this, it is telling you that integer 32-bit, that an array of integer type with 32-bit is created, in which each value is taking 32 divided by 8, that is 4 byte space. So for 0, 4 byte space is provided. For this one, Python provided 4 byte space. For this two, Python provided 4 byte space, so on and so called. So 4 byte space for each and every element is provided. Now talking about this particular item size, if you want to know that what is the item size, as you can see the data type is integer 32-bit. If you want to see that what is the size of each item in my array, that how much memory is getting occupied by 11 and this 22 and this 63, so accordingly let's understand. Okay, so we can find out the item size as well, a dot, by using the method what for example my array was created by the name C, so I can simply write C dot item size, and while you will click while you will press enter, you will find that the item size of each element is 4 byte, right? Now talking about this, what is the size of my array? If I want to find out the size of my array, so simple C dot size, and while you'll click, you'll enter, you'll press enter, you'll find that 100, and this 100 is showing that total 100 values are there inside your array. So this array is holding how many values? 100 values. So to determine shape, you can simply write c dot shape. Shape will tell you the what is the shape of your array. Is it 2 by 3 or is it 10 by 10, right? Accordingly. So dimension and dimension and dim. Now n dimension array will return you the dimension of the array. The d type name will return you what is the data type of each and every element in this array. The c dot item size will return you what is the size of each element, item size, what is the size of each and every element in this array, and c dot size will return you what is the total size of your array. And then thereafter, if you want to check that the type of c, like what type of values, like what is the data type of c, it's a numpy nd array. It's a numpy nd array. So I hope this must be clear to you all, and let's move ahead with another step. I hope this must be clear to you all. Okay, so let's move to our slide. So creation of array is done in very good way. Okay, so let's go to slideshow and find. Now creation of 1D array using functions. We'll be using various functions just to create ND array. So very first function is numpy.empty function, in which we are going to pass R row and C for columns. Okay, and by default the data type is float 64. Okay, so let's go to your Python shell and we are going to create an array, an empty array, right? And that empty array, let's create it. Okay, so as we have created the object of numpy as np, so I'm just creating an empty array by the name p equals to np dot empty, empty, in which I'm going to pass on the rows and columns 2 by 3. So it will create an array of 2 rows and 3 columns, but all the values will be random values and which will be of floating type, that is decimal value, and will be equidistant from each other. I repeat, this method will create an array. Okay, that array will be an empty array in which all the values will be garbage value and will be random, and this array will be having 2 rows and 3 columns. So let's create it. So I'm simply writing np dot empty, np dot empty, and just passing the size rows and columns 2, 3. Okay, just run. Oh, let me check why this error is coming. Data type not understood. Okay, right, I need to give a d type as well. So let's understand np dot import. Let's again import numpy as what? np. Okay, now again do the programming. That is np dot empty, and let's create an array of an empty array, right, of 2, 3. Okay, then press enter. Okay, again data type is not understood, so let me check it. There must be one silly mistake. Hold on. Okay, now do it again. np dot empty, sorry, np dot empty, and just pass on the value into it. That is, I have to actually keep it into the bracket. I want to create an array of 2, 3, and see the array is perfectly created. Now why I have kept this value into a bracket, actually the syntax was not proper, so that's why it was asking for the data type. That it was first it was considering this 3 as a data type. So d type can be integer, float, okay, integer or float, but this 3 can never can never be considered as integer or float. So that's why it was showing an error. And why it was showing an error? Because the first part of the array should be the value and it is to be kept into the bracket. For example, I would like to show you, like I'm creating another empty array, np.empty, okay, and I'm just passing the value 2, okay. That means 2 continuous memory space will get reserved by writing this statement 2, and d type I can pass type, okay, d type equals to int. Then it has created an array, with the memory location this and this. So here at the memory location this and this, the data type of these values are further converted into integer type and the array is presented at front of you. Say suppose if you want to create another empty array, np.empty, and you want to create an array by the size, say suppose only parenthesis will get used, so don't forget to use parenthesis, and you are saying 4, 5. So an array of 20 element will get created with d type. And what will be the d type? The data type of each and every element should be integer. Once you run this statement, you can see an array is created with the like memory location. These are actually the memory address of that particular location which is reserved by the array, right? So this is the memory address, and another this is the memory address, and the array is created in which what is happening, like 4 rows and 5 columns are made, and the data type of each row and each column is of integer type. And what you can do, you can further insert value into it. Okay, so that's all about empty method. Now talking another method is your numpy.zero method. So you can create an array of 0 element. And how you can create it? For example, I want to create an array by the name p equals to np.zeros. So this will create an array with how many elements? With all zeros element. And then in this 0 I would like to pass on the size, that what will be and that how many zeros I want, and what will be the data type. I want to create an array of same 5, 4, right? This will be the size of my array. And the d type, if I'm not going to pass the d type, what will happen? Let's see the result. Now array is perfectly created, so I'm saying the print, and what print p, what will happen? A 0 is an array of all zeros are created with how many rows? 5 rows, and how many columns? 4 columns. So as you can see, every value is of floating point type. So by default the value is of floating point type, and if you want to cast it, if you want to change it to integer type, so what you can do, that p equals to, you can create another array, or you can do conversion as well, right? P equals to, and what, np dot zeros, okay. And in this you can just, in this function you can pass on the value by, that is just create an array of 5, 4, and then you can just pass on the d type, data type equals to, say suppose if you want to create it, an array of integer type, then simply just write d type equals to int, then print, and what to print your p. So once your p is getting printed, you can see that all the values are of integer type, okay. So an array of all zeros element are created, and we have created the array of zeros element, and it's a very simple method, and Python is very very handy language actually. So you need not to have a knowledge of rocket science, or you need not to have very vast knowledge of programming, then only you can do programming in Python. There are set functions, and each and every function is having its own work, and what you need to do, you need to just apply that function, and that will give you the desirable result. So let's go to our presentation. We have done with this 0, and if we want to go to this another one, if I want to create an array of all ones, so what I can do is I can simply create an array p equals to what np dot array, and not np dot array, basically np dot ones, and I can just pass on the shape of my array, let's say 5 by 4, and your d type equals to, say, suppose your integer. So what will happen? Well, you'll be printing p. Then what will happen? It will, it has created an array with 5 rows and how many columns? 4 columns, in which the data type of each and every item is integer. Okay, now as you have already studied the method just to find out the size and data type of a particular element, so likewise you can check the data type, whether the data type is changed or not. So let's understand that how we can check the data type, as we have already understood. So let's say that if I want to check the data type, so p dot d type and dot name, it will return me what is the data type of my array, and my array is of integer 32. Again, what is the item size? So p dot, what was the command? Try to recall the command. P dot item size. Yes, very true. P dot item size. P dot item size will return you that what is the item size of each and every element. Of course it will be 4 byte, because here the data type is integer 32, right? 32-bit space is reserved for each and every integer. Okay, if you want to know the size, what was the method to find out the size of an array? So p dot size. So by using this p dot size, what will happen? It will return me the size of my array. It's 20. And if I want to check the dimension of my array, what was the method? Try to recall. P dot n dimension. P dot n dimension, it is showing me the dimension of my array is 2. And if I want to check the shape, so how can I check the shape? P dot shape. Simply it will tell me that it's a 2D array with 5 rows and 4 columns. Is it a 2D array with 5 rows and 4 columns? Yes, just check it. Yeah, it's true. Very good. So I think you all must be clear about this particular concept. Let's go ahead with the array creation. As we have created an empty array, an array of zeros element, all zeros element. Now I want to create, I have created an array with all one element. Now let's create an array which is full with the given values. So let's go to your screen. So the method of creating an array, full array, it's a equals. So let's create a full array. So the method of creating a full array is np dot full, right? And how many values I actually want in my array? So just pass on the size, and let's pass on the size is 5, 4. My array should have 5 rows and 4 columns. And what else I want? That my array should have only 7. All 7 values should be there. And d type of my array should be float. Okay, perfect. By default it is float, so no need to write it. Just write integer. Okay, then print, and I'm going to print my array. It's a. See what it has, what this statement is printing. it is printing an array which is having 5 rows and 4 columns. All the values in the given array is 7, and the data type of this particular array is integer. So that must be clear to you all how to create a full array. And the last but not least, what is there, that we can create an array of random element, right? So let's go to the Python shell. So let's create an array, that is, if I want to create np.random and dot random, and I want to pass 7. So it will take values starting from 0 to less than 7, and any random value will be come as a result. As you can see, it is giving us the result as a result as this. As you can see, this particular values. So these values are coming as of floating type. All values are coming of floating type. And yes, just check one thing, all the values are here greater than 0 but less than 7. All the values whatsoever are coming are greater than 0 but less than 7. But if I want to change the data type, so if as it is coming as integer, as it is coming as float, I want to change it to integer. So I'm simply writing np dot random random, and then I'm just simply doing what, I'm simply writing 7, and then what I am doing, that is d type equals to what, integer. So while running this statement, it is showing me an error, and that error is that file line this numpy.random type error, that random got an unexpected keyword, that d type. Okay, random like d type is not the right keyword of this random function, so it will always create an array of floating type value. As you can see that this is an array which is having all floating type values and all floating type random values. So I hope that must be clear to you all. So let's go to another part. So in this particular slide, we are going to discuss what is the difference between NumPy and a list. As you can see, NumPy works on homogeneous data type value, but Python lists are made up of heterogeneous data type value. Like for example, if you want to see on Python shell, and I want to create a list, so a equals to, I just pass on, I'm saying range, and then I'm just passing 10. So it will create a list of 10 random values. So type object is not specified, so let's specify the type of it. I'm just creating a list a equals, like, sorry, not a as we have already used, so I'm using here t equals to 10 comma 20 comma 30 comma 40 comma 50. So here I have created a list, and if I want to check the data type that of t, then t dot d type on dot what name, so it will return you t dot d type, because it's a list object, right? If I want to, because d type method is particularly exclusively of an array, so if I want to check right, if I want to update some value into it, for example, I want to update the value in place of that, let's say t at the index of, this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, this is index 3, this is index 4. If I want to write at index this particular, what to say, 20, so I can simply I can just pass on the index name, that is index number 1, and I would like to place at index 1 is Rahul Rahul, and let's close the quotes. So that at T and index number 2 I want to place what A, so just pass on A, and then thereafter while I'll be printing what A, it is showing not A, actually I have to print T. So while I'll be printing print and what T, so it will be showing me that 10, 20, A and A 40 and this. But if you wanna change any of the value over here, so what will happen, say suppose if you have created A equals to np dot array, which is already created, so let's print A, simply print A, and while you will be printing A, you will be getting that an array is created of these many element. So for this particular test I need 1D array, so let's go to find 1D array, and here you can see where's my 1D array, my 1D array. So let's create a new array actually. Okay, so let's come down and create a new array. So yeah, let's create a new array. A equals to np dot array, and I just wanna pass how many values into it, 10, 20, 30. So it's an array and I'm just printing it, print A. So my array is perfectly getting printed and showing me what all values are there in my array, 10, 20 and 30. Now if I want to change the value at the index 2, so this is my index 0, 10 is there at my 0 index, 20 is there at my first index, and 30 is there at my second index. If I want to change the value at index number 2 and I want to replace it by 40, yes, it can be done. So while I'll be printing this A, it will be giving me 10, 20, 40, right? But if I am going to change the value of this particular index with any other data type value, for example Rahul, so of course it will throw an error. Yeah, invalid literal for integer with base 10, that means Rahul cannot be fit over here. But in list we are having a scope. For example, if you want to in the list, by then if you want to put this Rahul value at second index in your existing list, yes, you can put. So just pass on Rahul. So what will happen, just print T, then print and your T. So yeah, it will perfectly work. So as you can see, now your list is having 10, 20, Rahul, 40 and 50, but in Numpy array it's not possible, it will throw an error. Okay, so let's go to your slide. Very first point is very much clear to you all. I hope that Numpy array works on your homogeneous type value, but Python lists are made for heterogeneous type value. Now talking about next, that Python lists support adding and removing of elements, right? That you can right in Python, like in Python list you can I think there's some mistake in the slide. What is happening, that Python list support adding and removing of element. Yes, you can add element into it, you can remove element into it by using the function, but in Numpy array it does not support adding or removing of elements. You can change the elements, you can replace the elements. Say suppose earlier it was 20, later on you can put there 30, earlier it was 40, then you can change it with 60, but you cannot remove any element out of your Numpy array. Second, this is the second this was the second difference. Now talking about third difference, it cannot it can't contain element of different data type. As you are already aware, in NumPy array you cannot keep the element of different data type, but in list you can keep the element of different data type. Now talking about this smaller memory consumption part, that NumPy array consume lesser memory in comparison of list, and moreover NumPy array provides you the better runtime in comparison of list, right? It takes less memory and it is fast. NumPy array takes less memory and NumPy array is fast, but your list takes more memory and it's quite slow. Okay, so let's move ahead. Creation of 1D array from a string. There's the second last slide, and how you can create a 1D array from an existing string. So there's a method named as numpy.fromString method, in which you can just pass on the string of numbers, and from a string it will create an array of integer type. So from a string is a method of creating an array of integer type. Okay, so if you want to see the demonstration, let's do the demonstration here. Like a equals to np dot from string method, and you want to pass on a string value to it. So pass on a string value like 20, 30. Here it's a string value, and you want to just pass on d type equals to integer and comma. The value should get separated by what? The value should get separated by comma. So enter, print, while you will be printing a. Earlier all the values, this 20 and 30 were of a string type. Later on these values are getting converted to integer, and it is showing you that this is an array which is having two values 20 and 30, which are of what type? Which are of integer type, and the values are these values should get separated by the comma. So let's go to your slide. You can see your values can be separated by the comma. So this particular from string method is done. Now talking about next is your last but not the least is your arrange function and the copy function. As we have already discussed that how to create an array by using arrange function. So we can create an array, and let's go in depth to the arrange function. So let's create an array by the name b equals to a np dot a range, and just pass on the starting, starting 200. This is the end, and then the step that by the difference of 2 all the values should be printed. That np dot arrange, I'm using this method very exclusively. So starting stop step, and I'm just passing your data type. So just place one comma, and d type equals to your float, and run this, and then print b, print b, right? While you'll be printing b, now what is happening? An array starting from 2 with the difference of 2, like 2, then 2, 4, then 6, then 8, because I have passed on the step as 2, till 100 is getting created where the data type of all the values are floats. Okay, all the values are float, as you can see here. So if you want to reshape this array, so you can reshape it like c equals to b dot reshape, and to what size is pass on rows and column. Shape is how many values are there, 50 values are there. So for example, I'm just passing 50, that is 25 or 2 by 25, so 2 comma 25, yeah, 25 comma 2, 25 rows will be there and 2 column will be there, right? And I'm closing the bracket. So cannot reshape array of size 49 to 25 by 2. So let's check how many values are there, how many values it is. This array is containing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Accordingly, just count. If you are going to multiply this 25 by 2 and the result is coming as the total count of these values, then array can be reshaped. Okay, so make sure your array should be having only those number of elements as per the shapes defined. Okay, so this is about reshaping, that how you can reshape an array. Okay, and how you can create array. The example program is given over here, like as you can see, import this np.arrange function, then print text accordingly, blah blah blah, right? So moving towards next, that is copy function. Now what is the purpose of having copy function? If you want to copy an array, right, somewhere else. So for example, you have created an array by the name B, so you want to copy the same, and c equals to np dot copy, and what to copy? You want to copy B. Yes, it will be copying. Now then print what? C. So it will be copying the same array, and C is also having the same value. Okay, so accordingly you can just copy the array as well. So that's all about today's session. I hope you must have enjoyed this entire lecture. Thank you so much for being so nice audience throughout. Please practice all these functions at your home, right? You can just install Python in your system and do install Python library and Numpy library and enjoy doing programming. So happy programming ahead. Bye bye. Have a great day. Thank you.